you was talking about. Because they're battery operated, batteries, you know, when we needed them.
Right.
Because obviously, without, you don't have power unless you have a battery.
Exactly. Or a creek on the side of the house.
Yeah.
Everybody ready?
This 6 p.m. Let me call to order the workshop meeting of the Highlands Town Board for December the 11th, 2025. The first item on the agenda would be to review and approve the agenda. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Move it be approved.
Second. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye. Thank you very much. The next item would be the approval of the October 16th work session meeting minutes. Do we have any changes or clarifications to those minutes?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank
Aye.
you. And then the approval of the November 20th work session meeting minutes.
Which is, you just open.
Meeting minutes, yes. Work session meeting minutes.
That's an easy motion.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. We have the minutes approved. The next thing would be the occupancy tax legislation change discussion. And let me start that. And I have a brief presentation, then I'll open up the floor and we can have the discussion. As any workshop session, nothing is final. This is just simply a time to look, think, reflect, and see if there's ways we can improve certain issues, certain situations. And we've had a lot of discussion over the last several years about the occupancy tax, questions about it, how it's allocated, how it's used, and so forth. So as the mayor and an elected official, I thought that this would be an important issue for us to do a review in a workshop session. So I've got up on the screen now just what I call proposition for consideration. And here are the four that I would like for us to kind of look at and discuss. The first one, update or change the Macon County 1985 room occupancy tax enabling legislation. It has not been changed in 40 years. Is it not time to start looking at how things can be changed by working with the county? Of course, because the county is the author and controlling agency of this this program and legislation, but it has not been changed in all of those years. The other one is to consider increasing the room occupancy tax rate. I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying it's time to maybe look at that as a possibility. And again, not just this board, but the community, the county, and of course, Franklin and their elected officials, and then the county commission. And then number three, to expand the local decision-making process on how room tax, occupancy tax is allocated. I think that a lot of people kind of sometimes wonder, well, how did those decisions, how were they derived, in what order? And then number four, to make the TDC process more transparent and open to the public for review. Those are kind of my general propositions that I'd like for us to consider tonight. And I have another slide, Gibby, if you'll put forth, and that is what area counties do. In other words, what what is their room occupancy tax profile? For example, Jackson County has a 4% tax rate, but under a revision of the enabling legislation, they have 2/3 of that fund, those funds go to tourist promotion, advertising and promoting tourism, and 1/3 of the tourist-related expenses are allocated. In other words, certain things that can be built, capital projects, improvements that are related to tourism. Henderson County, their rate is 6%. And again, they have a 2/3 tourism promotion and 1/3 tourism-related expenses. Graham County's 3% with that same 2/3, 1/3 profile. Clay County is 3%. But again, they have a 2/3 tourist promotion, 1/3 tourist-related expenses. Cherokee is 6% with that same pattern of 2/3, 1/3. Transylvania is 5% with the 2/3, 1/3. Swain is, again, 6%, 2/3 for tourist promotion and 1/3 for tourist-related expenses. Macon County, on the other hand, is 100% tourist promotion. I got this information from the legislative chart of county and municipalities, TDA, and room tax structures. Can I have the next slide? Under that chart with Macon County, it said this: Macon County generally conforms because 100% is used for tourism promotion, but doesn't incorporate the guidelines, definitions, or standard TDA language. And again, that's from the municipalities and county chart that created by the legislature. Town of Franklin has an additional TDA and a room tax rate of 3%, which is 2/3 promotion of tourism, 1/3 related to expenses. And then those 2/3, 1/3 models basically came from a unified provision for room occupancy taxes back in 1997. That was GS 153A-155. Would we go to the next slide? This is a slide that came from Chris McLaughlin, Occupancy Tax 101. For people's information, it's kind of an educational thing. A county that collects, or a city that collects these taxes, for the first $500,000, there's a 3% fee that is an administrative fee that counties or county towns can use for the first 500,000. Then anything over that administrative fee goes to 1%. And then promote travel and tourism, that definition there, to advertise or market an area or activity, publish and distribute pamphlets and other materials, conduct market research, or engage in similar promotional activities that attract tourists or business travelers to the area. The term includes administrative expenses, including incurred in the engagement of enlisted activities. Then tourist-related expenditures, and they in this piece refer to the Jacksonville Tourism Development Authority. They're designed to increase lodging facilities, meeting facilities, or convention facilities in a city, or to attract tourists or business travelers to the city. The term includes tourist-related capital expenses. And then I'd go on to the next slide. From the Magellan report, and it lists 5 room tax expenditure categories. One is destination tourism, which I think we're focused on. Tourism-related expenses like festivals, event expenses, capital projects, and ongoing operating costs. Number 3, debt service or operating support for tourism, related capital projects such as convention centers and arenas or visitors attractions. Then number 4, beach nourishment. And then finally, the general fund revenue and other specifically non-tourist uses. And that comes from the Magellan Strategy Advisors, and they do a report periodically about the status of the room tax in North Carolina. And then if you go to the next slide, the Magellan report breakdown of counties and municipalities, just to kind of paint a picture of what's going on in the state. 90 counties have room occupancy tax, including, of course, Macon County. 6 counties have no room occupancy tax at all. 4 counties have no room occupancy tax, but towns within the counties levy a tax, an occupancy tax. 34 counties have room occupancy tax, and at least one city or town has a separate tax. For example, town of Franklin. And then the last one in 2022, one of the last times I checked, and it points out that there were about $391 million that was collected for room occupancy tax in North Carolina. It has a great impact on our economy. The next slide I have says that there's no standard formula for how counties and municipalities distribute room occupancy revenue. Just some examples. For example, Ashe County, they have 1/3 to the county, 2/3 to the Chamber of Commerce used for any public purpose. Dare County, 60% of room occupancy tax goes to municipalities based on property taxes. Boone, above Blowing Rock, 2/3 to promote tourism, and 1/3 town council recommendation and approved by the TDA authority. Harnett County, they have TDA districts that can use the occupancy tax revenue on tourist-related events. And then Pasquotank County, 25% tourist-related expenses recommended by the county board. So there's a lot of variations within the state about how this money is allocated and used. And I just wanted to, move very quickly and throw out some of the things if we were to go to a 2/3, 1/3 formula, what are some of the things that we could use the occupancy tax for, and the more that will be coming in? And again, I view this as a partnership initiative. But for example, we've talked about parking. One of the recommendations has been increased parking by going from First Street to Third Street with additional parking. Well, that'll cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It seems to me if we had flexibility in how we're using the occupancy tax, some money from the occupancy tax could be used to move forward with that. Number 2, tree and landscape maintenance downtown. We're coming to a point where the issue of landscaping and replacing trees will be coming up very soon. And again, should we be using ad valorem tax for that, or should that too be maybe a consideration of a use for the occupancy tax? The new playground, I know that contributions have been made to the playground. But ongoing maintenance might be appropriate with occupancy taxes, or to maintain bathrooms, as we've had that discussion in the past, and even the creation of new bathrooms as tourist expansion takes place. Landscaping and maintaining a Founders Park, which is a tourist venue as much as a community venue. Greenway development could be possibly part of this room tax investment. The ice skating rink and maintaining of that operation could be funded by these kind of taxes. Kind of thinking out of the box. Childcare. We have people that work in the entertainment and the tourism business here, and the tourist service industry. Maybe the things such as when we partner to build the Boys and Girls Club for after-school programming for our young people, that could be in the mix by having some funds in the tourist occupancy tax area. And then things like sidewalk construction and maintenance of sidewalks, maintaining street cans and garbage collection that are generated by tourism. All of these things might be offset with some funds from the room occupancy tax. And then finally, what would be the next steps? One, of course, would be that the Macon County commissioners would have to make the final decision about any kind of change to our room occupancy tax. Discussions with the county and Franklin would be a next step. Maybe a task force or consultants or expert consultants might be on the table. To confer with the legislative delegation on any changes, because they would have to be approved in the state legislature. I point out that one of the reasons I wanted to have this discussion and get this discussion started, if any changes were to be made, it would require local legislation, and that deadline will be sometimes April of 2026. And then I would say this, everything that I've put out is for possible review. Changes wouldn't have to all be made at one point. They could be developed in stages or gradual. So that's kind of my little quick overview of where we might be, where we'd like to go. And with that, I will stop. I will turn it over to the board. And I know we have some friends from the tourist community and the business community and from the Chamber of Commerce. And I'll be happy to, invite them to weigh in too. But first of all, I would ask for any comments from the board.
I have a couple things. One of them, it was interesting to see the percentage calculations of, not percentage calculations, but the percentage numbers for various counties. I would be very curious though, because, in some cases, higher percentage means they have a higher percentage because their income and the amount of money coming in is so much lower. So they have to raise it in order to have enough money to operate. So I'd be curious if this discussion continues on. I think it would be good to have the information of how much money does the occupancy tax bring into that county at 3%, or the one, even there was one with 6%. Very curious about that, because that has a huge impact, obviously. The other question or the last slide that was next steps, I think this is very important because obviously the county is the governing authority for this. And we would work with them. The only thing I thought was extremely important that wasn't on the next steps is the Chamber of Commerce was never mentioned as being a partner in these discussions and parts of these next steps. And I think they should be listed at least as high or right behind the county. I just think that next step slide.
I think it's the TDA, not the Chamber.
Well, TDC.
TDC.
No, I 100%, but that's TDC goes to the chamber, goes to the TDC. That's fine. It just wasn't on there. And I think that's a major step that I would want, if there's anything to happen, it should be something that everybody agrees to, not just we go to the county and then tell the TDC what they're going to do or what we're planning to do. I just think that's important. Then you're working with the business community. And I don't know if we've talked to business community. I know we're just starting the discussion, so there's a lot of steps to go through, but I think it's very important to understand some of those things that you listed. Money could be spent on this. They are spending money on this. Because I have a breakdown between nonprofits and money they spent in town over the past 2 years that I requested and easily got. I know everybody says we don't have any transparency, but you ask and you shall receive, and whoever ends up being on the TDC is given all this information. So it's incumbent that whoever gets put on the TDC from this board, which we have to appoint a new one in the very near future, I think that that person, it's their responsibility to bring it back to us because that's the TDC. I mean, if somebody disagrees, I'd love to figure out a different way to get that information. We've gotten information, but then it wasn't enough information. I'm just saying some wanted more, which is fine. But I think that if you're on the TDC, you get that information. So, you know, I'll point that out. I think that's important because that's our liaison to this board. There's, you know, so the onus will be on that person. But again, go through some of this stuff. You know, I realize there's a couple particular issues that came up in the past 2 years since I've been here that have brought this about, in my opinion. It may have been long before that. I still want to exercise with caution. There's a lot of steps to jump through, and we're more of an advisory. We're not, if we come up with something, we say to the county, this is what we want to do. It's inevitably 100% their decision. So I do think we need to have discussions if we want to proceed down this route. I'm not in favor of raising the percentage. And I'd be curious. I think it's been told to me, I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not even going to get into the details, but it's been told to me that it's, some of these other counties in Jackson County, et cetera, a bunch of the things that were listed on there, even with the 2/3, 1/3, some of those things aren't allowed in Jackson County, like the building of sidewalks. Those kind of grants get shut down and don't happen. So I know that's been one of the items that's been discussed.
That's under local control.
Correct.
There's not state law to that. There are
It's a
guidelines.
TDA. That's under a county TDA.
Or county, that's local.
Right. So,
control.
but the other part is, there is local control and then there's TDA, which is the county. And then there's the TDC. TDA, TDC are two different things. So we need to understand and go forward with this, but I think there needs to be discussions, not only if we're going to discuss it with the county, fine, if we're going to discuss it, but we also need to include the TDC, our local TDC in these discussions. And like I said, I think it's important. It might be semantics because it's very early, but they need to be a critical part of these discussions.
And I don't disagree. I think I've already had individual discussions with other folks, particularly in Franklin and the county and elsewhere. And they also think it's time to be beyond the 1985 olive going, because there are a lot of impacts that more people, whether they're tourists or anything else, more people bring in. Okay. If you're advertising it to bring in, then everything from, accessible housing to EMS to sidewalks, because people now use neighborhood roads as bypasses that don't have sidewalks, and we still want our neighbors to be able to walk on them. All those kinds of things. Garbage collection, everything that gets collected within the town of Highlands goes down to the transfer station, and we get charged for. So every old ice cream cone that gets put in the garbage can, the town of Highlands pays for that out of our general fund. So more people means more trash, means more money that we have to pay that we don't generate in any other way except that ad valorem taxes and whatever sales tax that thing does.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily.
Sales tax also gives you the brick sidewalks, the trees, the everything else, and it's just become more than. For many years, we were able to do it, and now we can't.
Right. Understand. And I know we've also been working towards, when we talk about trash, that we've run a deficit on trash every year, and we've been raising rates so that we can become self-sufficient within that.
No, we moved it into the general fund because fees would not do it.
But we've been subsidizing it from the general fund, but we also are monitoring it, and we can check it out because we want to make sure that as our increases happen, and increases have been significant. Especially when you talk about commercial, because we don't pay to dump residential, we pay to dump commercial. So understand that. And the commercial increases have been very significant, which are the places that are producing it. So my only point is, I'm not saying that there's not a difference between the two. I'm just saying that we have a lot of things to consider. And if we want to change what it gets done or how it gets done or how it gets distributed, that's one thing. I would be a little bit concerned in one way about losing local control and having a county TDA board determining what money we get.
Oh, I don't think that
Well,
anybody's
But
considered.
but Jackson County is that way, and it's kind of been the model of
Well,
some
but
people.
that's, but just because they do
understand.
it that way doesn't mean that we have to do it that
Well,
way. But
well-
those are other examples of how it's done. And they have
Right,
a 1/3, 2/3
Right.
thing. So however they do it, maybe they do it because Silva has their, I don't know, if Silva has
Yeah,
their own thing or not, but I
Yeah,
can look it up.
but-
But what I'm saying is we can decide with the county, with Franklin, with folks from Nantahala, everybody who's actually going to be impacted by this, how it's distributed and who makes the decisions locally.
okay, so understand where everybody's thoughts are. I just think we need to make sure we include the people that it directly affects here also. I mean, it affects everybody, but it affects,
Well,
it does.
right now, a lot of people that it affects have no say in it whatsoever. I mean, the residents of Highlands are subsidizing the commercial garbage. The commercial garbage rates may be high, but they are not high enough to take care of the tipping fee.
Understood.
So what I'm saying is they're not having the impact of the commercial, the residents are actually picking up the slack for that, and they have no say in that at all, because it's a commercial entity that works for businesses that is saying what it could.
Right. I realize that's a singular example.
Well, you
But my
want
point
an
is,
example.
no, I'm saying it was a singular example that I gave.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying that. So my point is, our attempt was to make it a lot more balanced so that we weren't running a huge deficit. It's why we don't lease trash cans anymore that was losing $30,000 a year. It's a lot of those things, but my whole point is all parties need to be involved in it. And I know some are here, some are in Franklin, some are not here. But that's my only point about this. It needs to be, if this is good, I mean, I understand you have to have something by April. We know how government works. There is no way that I can foresee, in my own opinion, something being agreed by all of those parties by April 26th. I'll say that right
You're
now.
never going to get 100% agreement.
No, I'm not talking about that, but you have the county, you have our state legislators, everybody has to be on board.
Well, state legislators, from a discussion that was had, that if everybody locally and within the county agrees, the state legislators don't care. They are willing to put forward what the stakeholders within their county decide on.
Understood. So if we get unanimous across the boards, then,
Well, I don't think you'll ever get unanimous, Jeff.
well, I
But if you
understand
get
that.
all the.
Everybody wants to hold tight to the money,
But who's everybody? That's what I don't,
everybody.
okay.
I would say the big challenge, you're right, Jeff, that we would have to get all the stakeholders on board, because the legislators would not want to advocate in the legislatures things that everybody wasn't in
Right.
pretty much general support. I would go back to 1985. We have not changed the room occupancy tax legislation for all those years. And actually, if you take kind of an originalist interpretation, it should be only for the promotion of tourism. But I think over the years, it's spread out. And the model that would fit better would be that 1997 reform legislation, where you do have the 1/3, 2/3 model. And then you don't get into rabbit holes about we can't pay for bathrooms or we can't do this or what. It would have a mechanism for meeting a lot of different emerging and different needs
Right.
to
So,
address the tourists.
so the inevitable goal would be to have, if it is, I know we're way ahead of the game, to have a 2/3, 1/3, so that 1/3 could be used for elements that technically they're not like bathrooms. I'll bring it up. That's been a subject. Everybody knows it.
Yeah,
Bathrooms and rent. You know where I stand on the rent side.
I understand.
But on the bathrooms,
Yeah.
I realize that's one expense, but I mean, I also want to point out that we're talking about, I have it here. So, the elements that, and I realize some of this stuff, whether or not the town takes it on and the Chamber of Commerce stops doing it or other people, we have $330,000 over the past 2 years are direct expenses that if they don't do it, would the town? I mean, I realize some of this doesn't matter to some people, but the new decorations, the other ones look like, well, they didn't look good. The new ones they bought, $44,000. Would the town have done that? It's a question.
We did in the past.
Okay, well, do you understand where I'm going with it, though? You know, you have.
Yeah, but okay, let me give you an example. It costs us $50,000 a year to have the ice skating rink open. And we make in fees, maybe 20.
Understood.
Yeah, so we have a $30,000 deficit and we're keeping that open. Which is, everybody can use it, but it was initially a tourist related thing that got advertised as coming to Highlands to skate.
Understood.
So the taxpayers of the town of Highlands are now having to subsidize that.
Understood. But I'm not saying that a 1/3 shouldn't be used for things like that. I'm not saying that any way, shape or form. What I'm saying is, that we also need to look at, and I know we had this conversation before. I'm not saying all of a sudden, I mean, if we want to make tourists pay for things, I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about. Then why is it, I don't know how much it is now, but it is ridiculously cheap to go to the skating rink. Okay. You go to Greenville on Main Street, same thing. It's 3 times the price and the place is packed. My point is, I think those kinds of expenses don't have to be subsidized by taxpayers. I think that the people now, you know, the other issue is, I know a lot of kids locally that go there all the
If they don't
time.
want to increase their room tax, they sure as heck don't want to increase the entertainment that they have to pay for.
Who are we talking about now? The tourists or the businesses?
People who are.
I hate to put it this way, but we're not asking the tourists.
No, the people are in this room right now who do not want us to increase the tax. I assume there are some people who don't want us to.
Well, and I can't say whether or not we want to or not to. What I don't want to, all I'm saying is that I'd love to know the percentage of how much money, the ones that offer the percentage is a 6% one up there bringing in $425,000 a year when, you know, ours brings in about, from occupancy tax brings in about 1.3 a year.
To Highlands.
To Highlands, correct. But my point about that is, I think in order to look at percentages, I mean, look at the percentage of people charged, it'd be nice to know, again, what, and I realize that's another, okay, like if somebody charges 6% and they only bring in 420,000, you say, well, that's way too much, take it down to 3. Now they bring in 210,000. Do you see what I'm saying? They raised the higher percentage because they weren't bringing in much money.
Well,
I'm not necessarily in favor of raising the percentage,
I
but
understand that, and that's not the whole
Right.
thing. It's not.
I know it was
yes or
just
no.
one of the items on the
It's
list.
not yes or no, exactly.
Understood. All I'm getting at with all this is, I just think that if we're going to have a conversation, I think that's great, but there should be a task force. There should be somebody actually looking at the fine tooth details of this that involves stakeholders at all levels, locally, Franklin, and whatever else we need to do. But-
And that's essentially what this meeting is for, is to say, yes, we should look at this, and the people who,
No, I understand that. I understand
you
that.
know, we have
I
to
just want to
start
make sure.
somewhere.
Agree
And
completely.
frankly, the guidelines, that this comes from what is this, the finance committee of the legislature, they talk about the 2/3 and 1/3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, I don't think inevitably, I think there's two levels to this. What you can spend the money on and who controls it are the two questions. And,
Exactly.
you know, having the ability to,
Is that right?
having the ability to spend it on a wider range of things, I don't think is, I mean, I can't speak for anybody other than myself, is as big of an issue as how are we going to handle, you know, we don't want to be in a county TDA, so is it TDC locally? And then how is that going to change?
Well, part of the problem with who decides who it gets spent on, the way it is now, it's being decided basically by people who are not elected by the citizens.
Exactly.
Okay,
Tax money being
Yeah.
spent by unelected.
well,
Right. So there's no way,
except for the liaison. who is an elected official on the TDC.
on the TDC, but coming down to where the people are actually making the decision. Okay. There's no elected official who's making any of these decisions. And then so the citizenry are completely cut out of how these things are spent.
Except for the liaison person that's a town board member. I'm saying they're on the TDC. They have a say in it. They're at the
No.
meetings.
No, who sits on the chamber board who's making all these decisions?
The chamber board is authorized by the TDC. If the TDC
And that's
says,
why we're saying the TDC needs to be reorganized too.
Yeah.
okay,
The TDC was created around 2009 because
Right.
the money was coming directly from the county to the chamber, and
Understood.
that was deemed to be illegal.
correct.
I'm not trying to point fingers, but I do think the TDC needs to be kind of reorganized and everything. And I've talked with Joanna, and we'll give her a chance to talk, but it used to be it met 2 times a year. Now it's increasing the frequency. But that's what I'd like to see, more of a reorganization and openness where we can understand and the community can understand about this. I read the Franklin paper, and with their TDA, the newspapers go to the meetings and report on what people are requesting and everything. We never have any of that in our, we don't, and to be quite frank, one of the things that kind of alarmed me, we haven't been seeing budgets in the annual report of the visitor chamber reports and things like that for the last several years. And then all of a sudden we discover, well, last year the budget operation was 1.6 million. There's a surplus and so forth, that I just think there needs to be more of a reform where there's kind of a transparency.
There needs to be accountability.
In there. And I'm not criticizing, the expenditures per se, but I just think that we need to kind of rethink this. And then I go back to the 1985 and I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, all these other counties have made reforms and gone to the 2/3 and 1/3. And we haven't done anything except we've had kind of a mission creep here, because from the purest idea of just 100% of promoting tourism, we've started doing expenditures that I'm not so sure are consistent with that 100% tourism model, but they would be with the 1/3, 2/3 model. And what tripped me up this year, and I scratched my head, can't do bathrooms, but then all of a sudden out of the blue, $40,000 came from the TDC or chamber for improvements to the dog park. I just think that there's some consistency that needs to happen here, and maybe rethinking and reorganizing the TDC, TDA room occupancy tax system. And I agree with you, Jeff. We need to, work together, and it's kind of awkward. And it might be that we can't get the change in legislation because of the complexity of it, but we need to, have a discussion and get a start going and
But
bring
we're
in
not
everybody.
reinventing the wheel here. The 2/3,
Yeah.
1/3 is something that
No,
is
no,
well accepted
I'm not-
throughout the state.
I'm actually not questioning that part at all. I'm just, I'm just curious what the inevitable end game is with it. And I mean, you outlined some of the expenses you'd like it to go towards, or potentially could go towards, not like it, that's the wrong term.
Right.
You would potentially could use it for, but again, my biggest thing is the last slide. We just need to make sure that we include all parties. And I know one major one in that mix is the one that gets the money. So obviously they're going to have, they have certainly a vested interest in it. But they would still get the money with changes. My whole point is I think we need to put together a task force, and that task force should include parties from every one of those groups and start talking about it.
That's exactly what this meeting.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, I don't want it being, well, and again, we won't even go back to this building that they're in. And I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying we need to make sure that we include everybody in the mix, so they're all part of the discussions. And that's it, plain and simple.
And I'm gonna stop you there because you say include people.
Mhm.
I think we
There you go.
should. So I'm gonna open up the floor now.
100%.
And I know Joanna, anybody from the tourist industry would like to come up and respond. The floor is open.
Hi, good evening. Blythe Hunsinger. I'm the current chamber board leader for the Highlands Chamber of Commerce. Visit Highlands NC. Obviously, the occupancy tax dollars come to the chamber. We're clear on that. Had conversations with the mayor before about this. I think, to put it simply, is first of all, we're in a unique situation where the occupancy tax dollars that are earned in Highlands, North Carolina, come to Highlands, North Carolina. And that I feel like if we changed legislation, and I'm going to say go down, and the money goes down the hill, is diffused in any way, that would limit our ability to continue to support key initiatives here in Highlands. So first of all, I think the money should stay in Highlands if we can. That's a unique situation. It's not the same across all counties. We know that. Secondly, and most importantly, we keep talking about what the money can be spent for. I absolutely agree that we need to have more communication. There's a lot of assumptions. First of all, the chamber is responsible to operate within the confines of the rules and regulations. So we have a list of things we can do and we can't do. I'm open for that list to change. You mentioned for example, tonight, the ice rink. That's like a no-brainer to me. I think that we could support that hands down without any conflict, but we're making assumptions that we can or we can't. In this task force that we're talking about, and yes, the chamber should be a key member, we could then put things on the table, have a discussion. Yes, we can do it. No, we can't do it. This is why, whatever. But there's, even bringing the bathrooms back up. We had figured out a way in mayor's office with our town manager, Josh, that we could support the $40,000. No problem. We made that happen. But then it was tied to a lease and that didn't work. So we had to go a different direction. So we're trying. We love the new decorations. They're beautiful. Those are things we can do. There's other things we can do. So it's not a lack of, I think I just want to be clear that from the chamber perspective, we want to help this town. Yes, we want to continue to use dollars for tourism. It's important to promote tourism. It's also important that the community does benefit from many of these things that the chambers do that pays for, that's tourism related benefits, just like our Saturday night music, for example. Tons of local Highlanders enjoy that during season on Saturdays. So anyway, I agree there needs to be a committee. We need to have open communication. We need to keep the dollars in Highlands and use those dollars responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Amy, with all due respect, if you ever actually went down to the ice rink on a given night in the wintertime, you would see hundreds and hundreds of local families and their children having fun, skating, enjoying themselves on a town amenity that is not uncommon in towns across the United States. Amenities the town pays for, like the pickleball courts and the tennis courts and the playgrounds and other things a vibrant town should expect. That's what I see. It was not built for visitors. We built it. We paid for it. And we gave that money because we wanted it to be something fun for the town. And yes, visitors can use it. But it was not a visitors only project. And it's not a visitors only used amenity. My grandchildren skate there on a weekly basis. Many people in town, their families skate there. So please don't tie that to just a visitor amenity that should be paid for by occupancy tax. And yes, it's too cheap. So if you want to increase the price, which you should, I don't think we have no issues. I don't know why you said there are people in the room that have issues. We have no issues. It's way too cheap. You said there are people that want to keep the price low. Not me. And I don't know anyone else in this town that wants to do that.
But you want to keep the occupancy tax low,
Yes, and I'll address that in a minute.
which is a price,
What's that?
which is a price.
Yes, but I don't want to keep the occupancy tax low so you can pay for the ice rink. I want to keep it low for a valid reason. You've addressed stakeholders. You've mentioned stakeholders several times. We are stakeholders. We're one of the largest producers of occupancy tax in the county. So I think we have a right to speak on our view on how this affects us. So if I may, I'm going to read a prepared statement so I don't go off track. With all the issues we've had with huge inflation, tariffs, massive labor increases, leading, and not just me, I'm talking for businesses, hotels in Macon County, huge operating expenses increases. The last thing we need is for any room rate increase that we could possibly apply or impose to our guests to be gobbled up in the form of additional occupancy tax. I'll be very clear, when a guest checks out of a hotel and they look at their itemized room rate and then the sales tax and the occupancy tax and the resort taxes, they don't look at them as separate charges. They look at one bottom line. And increasing occupancy tax increases that bottom line and makes us all seem more expensive in a time when everyone thinks things are too expensive. So yes, that hurts all of us. Any increases that add to our rates will negatively impact all of the hotels in Macon County, all of the SDRs, which you might be fine with, and all the businesses that those hotels and STRs support. It has a massive impact on what we do. If we could just increase our rates by 3% to cover increases in hourly labor from $12 to $20 an hour, right? That keeps us viable. So you put a 6% occupancy tax on that. The hotel guest looks at it as a 6% increase to our hotel rates. Not, oh, well, the rate's still here, but now they're at 6%. And you can look at New York City and other cities that have done that have got the occupancy taxes so high that they stop booking hotel rooms. I'll be clear right now in stating we will fight this with everything we have at the town level, the county level, and the state level. With our congressman, Raleigh, you name it, and whatever it costs us, we will fight an increase in occupancy tax. And as Bly said, I'm open to legitimate tourism expenses like the ice skating rink, if you so deem fit. But sidewalks? Seriously? Sidewalks are there. We live here. We need sidewalks. Do we really think our tourism and visitors impact is wearing out our sidewalks quicker? Roads? No, that's not what occupancy tax was designed for. How about looking at trying to put more effort into trying to cut our annual budget and look at the expenses in town rather than putting the burden on top of hardworking businesses and residents that invest in this county and help support thousands of jobs and the families. And finally, siphoning off current occupancy tax revenues to use for other projects and items not related to tourism and town businesses is a slippery slope and currently not legal. Ask McDonald's and Coca-Cola why they still advertise. We've made it. We're busy. We don't need to spend any more money on marketing. Not true. They keep spending money to promote themselves to be viable, economically viable. It is a recipe for disaster and the first step in destroying a vitally important and viable economic community here in Macon County. And I'll finish by saying there's a reason North Carolina is one of the top 10 states in this country to visit. Because we promote ourselves well, we have an amazing state, and we use occupancy tax to help do that. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to make a statement? Come on up.
I'm John Reimer. I'm a resident. I'm not a member of the chamber. I'm simply a resident. And I'm here to discuss what I think is needed for a thoughtful group of people to bring more transparency to how that money is being used. I can't say that I agree or disagree with it because what's being spent, because I spent 9 months trying to get some very simple answers to what I thought should be very easy questions. And I was at every corner, I shut down as go look at our what's the thing called?
990,
The what?
990.
Yeah. And so I couldn't find out things. I was sent some information that I tried to find out. I went and actually, I was sent a survey that was so badly done by the chamber that I called them and I said, who did that? I do surveys for a living. And the survey obviously had an end result that it was trying to achieve and had damn the facts to get there. And I just felt that somebody had to stand up and say, if this is really money for the entire community, we need to do a better job at communicating and transparent and having accountability for how it's spent. I'm sorry that we have to go through the town council to get this, but it's certainly not working now. It hasn't worked for the last 2 or 3 years. And it's a shame that we have to go through this because they don't want to share the information with the population. So that's really all I have. It's not about the amount of the money, but it's about the fact that you try to peek under the hood and there's 10 people there telling you, we can't share that information with you. And I just think it's a poor standing for what I think is a great community. And I think there's great people at the chamber, but we're not sharing that information. And if this is the way to get to it, that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a statement? Joanna, come on.
Commissioners. I'm Joanna Fine. I'm the new executive director of the Highlands Chamber of Commerce. I, again, am new, so I've never heard about an information request. But if you would like to come to my office and sit down with my treasurer, my board chair, I'd be happy to go over our financials with anybody. We do have them available online. Mr. Weller is the only commissioner that's ever asked me for any numbers since I've been in the seat since July. And I shared those with him easily. In less than 24 hours, I was able to provide him with all the numbers he needed. And I've met with Mr. Taylor, Mayor Taylor, and we want to work with you. We are not trying to hide anything. We had one of your own commissioners actually chair that TDC for years. And if he didn't share with you our budget, our meeting notes, shame on him. If you didn't ask for it, shame on you. But again, we are here to work with you. Almost every request you've ever asked of us, we've provided funds. We want to continue providing funds. I've asked you all to meet with me. A couple of you have, and thank you for doing that. But I would like a partnership with you. And again, we want to be at the table to have these conversations and be a partnership of Highlands. Yes, the county of Macon is who holds a contract with us, but we want this money to be in Highlands.
Let me just say, I think that this board in the past has asked for budget information and everything, and it has never been easily forthcoming. And I would like to see that when you do a budget and adopt an annual budget, that it be shared with the town board, just for informational purposes. Okay, would anyone else like to speak? We've got just a few minutes. We've had a lively discussion. And the big question is, where do we go from here? And I know Commissioner Weller, you talked about a task force or a committee or a group. What's kind of complicated about this is we might be doing that. Okay, just a second. But we also have to like you say, be inclusive of a broader array of people in the county. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, I was sorry I arrived late and didn't realize
Okay. Please state your name.
Gail Flynn.
Okay, and pull the microphone closer so we can hear you.
Okay. All right, I got here late. I apologize. I didn't realize. In any event, what I wanted to speak about was the proposed hotel.
Okay, this is actually a work session about that's coming up.
Next time.
It's coming up. You're actually early.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So getting back, what's our next step? We
Well,
have 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, I just think we should, and I'll work with anybody that wants to, but I think we should come up with a recommendation if we're going to have a group that sits down and talks with, let's just call it stakeholders from all parties. We sit down and talk about it. I mean, and get the process started to at least discuss the pluses, minuses, what we're trying to accomplish. Like any other committee you'd put together, you want to understand, not necessarily sit down and write a mission statement like you would with a nonprofit, but decide what is your mission statement? I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? Where are we trying to go? So I just think we need to come up with a list of not who, but what are the parties? What are the groups, whether or not it's you or whoever else wants to come up with it. I'd be happy to make out a list and at least discuss the pluses, minuses, and et cetera.
And we're going into the holiday season. and everything,
Correct.
But let's just kind of do this. Well, you and I sit down
Love to.
and then we'll bring some other folks in and have a discussion on how to
Yeah.
move forward
I think that's a great idea.
at this point. Okay.
Well, I think everybody can make their opinions known about who should be at the table.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and open to people letting us know.
Yeah.
I mean,
they
yeah.
want to be at the table.
Anybody out there or in the news or whatever, let the mayor know, let me know
But they
who
need
you
to
think
be-
should be the stakeholders.
They need to be representative in the sense that we can't have 20 people do it.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, you won't get anything done with 20 people.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They
We all
have to
know
be
that.
representative
Yeah.
of the stakeholder, not,
Right. And the stakeholder means somebody from the community, certainly people from the business community, certainly
but we also
Chamber,
need to talk to
county.
anybody else in the county,
agreed. Agreed.
Franklin, within the county, everything else, because that's where it ultimately has to go,
Right.
is to the county.
So at least as an initial step, and again, we are in this season, but so the mayor and I will get together and we'll at least talk about ideas of who they are. And obviously this board will have huge input in how that group gets formed or requested to be formed. If everybody's good with it.
Well, Mayor and I have already talked about
Okay,
who should be in it. So
perfect.
you're not going to be the only one.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
We'll
Understood.
work together. And like I say, after the holidays, we'll
Yep,
try to
sounds great to me.
get to work on this. Okay, we have about 4 minutes before the county board meeting. Do we have any more comments before I call for adjournment of the workshop?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, please raise your hand. We are adjourned. Thank y'all for coming. We'll continue the conversation.